Danny Rocca with The Magazine, and I am here today with Steve Samblis, the author of Habit
One Habit.
You
know, it's funny because when we were doing that thing, I asked a bunch of people, I was like, how do you read that? And like 9 out of 10 said One Habit, but 1 out of 10 would just say Habit 1. I go, well, that doesn't work, okay.
Does the smart one say Habit 1 or is it One Habit?
The really smart ones say Habit 1. What did you say?
I don't know, but we can rewind it later.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to go with I said the smart one first,
Yeah,
but
you
probably
said
not.
Habit 1.
But
I purposely did that. Yeah, you said Habit 1.
But that is okay.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about this because everybody talks about habit forming and successful people have their habits throughout it. But what made you want to write a book about it?
You know, it's interesting because I have spent my entire life around personal development. The day I was born, my dad bought a copy of Think and Grow Rich that he was going to let me have when I could read someday. And even better than that, when I was a little kid, he would buy these actually 78 records. These were really heavy records. And it was Napoleon Hill, it was Earl Nightingale, Acres of Diamonds, The Strangest Secret, Cabot Roberts, Zig Ziglar. And I would listen to these as a little kid, thinking they were like bedtime stories, you know? So I've been around this, so in my head it always was that you could model other people's behaviors. When I became a stockbroker, I took the biggest stockbroker in my area who happened to be in my office and just did what he did, modeled his behavior. And so as I kept exploring what makes us successful, it just seemed to me that motivation is something we can all get pretty easily. You know, Zig says, you know, like these motivational speakers are great. It's like a bath, you need one every once in a while, you know? And so I just realized that motivation kind of gets you out of the blocks, but it's people's habits that are things that make you take another step, and the next step, and the next step. And I just kept looking into that. And about 2 years ago, I've interviewed about 1,000 actors on camera, working for the studios. And at one point, I just decided to start asking them not just about the movies, but about their secrets to success. Yeah. Like The Rock and Queen Latifah, Dolly Parton, and you know, all these other actors. The thing that I noticed that was different about them, or maybe similar amongst them but different amongst other people, was the things they did habitually. Like how they woke up, reading an hour a day, things of that nature. And so I said, you know, this would be something of great interest, I think. So I started with 3,000 people. And the most important thing was, though, is during this process, I changed my heroes completely. Steve Jobs was one of my heroes. Yeah. He was so successful, right? But he's also somebody that is extremely unhappy. Right. You know, and so I've always defined success by how much money you make. You know, being a stockbroker.
A lot of people do, especially if you're the money guy.
So I realized that true success is when somebody is happy and they're performing at their peak in the areas how they are spiritually, in their family life, and with God, and all the things that they interact with, all those pillars in life. Those are what I call happy achievers, performing highly on all those levels. So not only successful in business, and not forgetting your family, you know, or physically in good shape, and also doing other things too. So at any rate, it's a long story I'm making this, you know.
Yeah, I have so many things I want to say, but keep going.
Yeah. So I started about 2 years ago, just having conversations with people that I knew were in this big giant group, and whittled it down to 100 people, and I asked them all the same question. I said, if you could instantly instill in a child one habit, what would it be and why? And I shut. And I let them answer. And as I started getting their responses, I was blown away by how there were similarities in them, but all their habits were different too. Their most important habit. Because in the book here, I mean, you could these people spend 20, 30, 50 years developing who they are. And so what the book basically does is it takes the one single most important habit that they have and offers that. So it basically takes decades and breaks it down to days. Right. So by modeling these people, and I truly believe that, by the way, if you just take one of these habits and make it part of you, it'll change your life.
Oh, absolutely.
If you take 5 of them, man, I think you can change the world.
Oh, I agree. So I want to go back, to the beginning of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Your father.
Yeah.
That is so rare That this is that was like his gift. This is like, I'm going to do this for my son. What did your father do? Who was he?
He worked at the steel mills. He grew up really poor in East Chicago and Indiana. He worked at the steel mills that worked for U.S. Atlas Cement Plant in Gary, Indiana, in the harbor. But here's what's interesting about him. He always had that spark of interest in learning. So what he did, he started as a chemist and then ended up running the plant out there. But he was, like I said, he was always buying these. But here's what's really interesting. I would say 1 out of 5 of the albums he bought, he didn't listen to. He just felt really good about himself because he bought them and put them on the shelf. And I was the one who was listening to them. So I always felt that was fascinating. And then later on, he'd eventually get into them. But then as I got older, we could talk about these things. We could talk about Napoleon. Oh, okay. That was fascinating.
I'm going to keep an eye on there. There we go. Good thing for edit.
I was over there, I saw this thing happening over there. So nothing has happened, we're just still talking. Yeah, so it was really interesting. So he was inspired, this was something else too, okay? This was another lesson I learned from that.
Okay.
So he was motivated and excited to buy these albums, buy these books, but his habits didn't get him to read them, follow through it, and move forward with them.
Right. Did he buy them because his form of success was maybe the money side of it, being the ability
I think it was just
to buy them, but knowing that they would be great tools for you?
He did with Think and Grow Rich for me. I knew that.
Yeah.
Because he believed in these books, right?
Right.
And he believed in the records that we had, because we didn't have tapes back then. It was the 60s. But here's the thing. It was almost like he would buy the books, buy the albums, and just feel so good about doing that he was good.
That was it.
Yeah. And eventually he might get into it, and I'd find a book like, if you sit over and be like a bookmarker and like barely moves at like a snail's pace. On the table.
A year later.
I'm like, Dad, you read another 2 pages. That's great.
I would. Is your father still?
No, he's been gone for a long time.
He's been gone, so we'll never know the answer to
unfortunately,
that. But he sounds like an amazing man that instilled this kind of exploration that you.
He gave me. He left me a treasure chest.
Yeah.
That I kind of got into as a young child. And remember, when I started listening to these albums, I didn't realize what I was.
Right.
I just enjoyed. Earl Nightingale had this baritone, and he was great storyteller, baritone voice.
Right.
And so I was just really enjoying that. Mm-hmm. And then this just suddenly I realized that I read self-help books.
I'm brilliant. I'm 10.
I know. I'm like 12 years old, going, this is normal for a kid my age, right?
So when you're going through this and you're interviewing all of these people, and that must have sparked the curiosity that was kind of embedded in there inside you. And there's a weeding through process.
Yeah, I went from 3,000 to 100.
Right.
Yeah.
And you talked a lot about success from money, and then the happiness is success and the other aspects of your life. Yeah. So were there people that you were like, and I know you talked about the people that you looked up to change, that you're like, this person is going to be in it. And then you found that they were a little contradictive in their life, that you said, I can't have them in the book. I mean, you don't have to say names, but
2,900 of them actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
And was that the reason? Because there was a contradiction in that as a whole.
Yeah, so it took me 2 years to weed through them.
Yeah.
And then when I was ready to start putting the book together, it was only 9 months from that point on that I accepted the contributor that was going to take, and then published the book on our own. And here's something else that's interesting too. Yeah, so there was, it was funny because when I was really young, youngish, I was a stockbroker, and I started a fax marketing company working with Nightingale Conan, selling motivational tapes to car dealers all over the U.S. through a fax machine. I called each car dealer. I said, "Hey, I'm Steve Samblis with the reason for my success, and I have a way you can sell more cars without spending any money." And they would say, "Okay, how?" I'm going to send you a 2-page fax once a week. One is an article on selling. One is a sheet of audios that your salespeople can buy at a discount on their own through an 800 number. It won't cost you a penny. And so I was selling hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of audios this way. And so some of the people that were in those audios that were my heroes, when I met them, it's a little different.
Yeah.
It was.
did that change anything in you? 'Cause I've had that experience.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
see this, what you think is a reality,
Yeah.
and then you find out it's not, and you're like,
Mhm.
does that disqualify what they did for you and what you learned from them?
That's what's really interesting. So, on the book, the answer first of all is no. I mean, the data I got, the information, what it did for me was great. They just chose to live their lives in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
But when I did the book, I didn't want anyone to meet somebody in this book and get that thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to make it so the people that are in this book are happy achievers, or truly are. So I could have done the book a lot quicker if I would have just picked these really, exactly. So yeah, but it's interesting you say that because it doesn't change what I got out of them, right?
Right, I
agree. I mean, I could go watch a band and turn out they're all dirtbags, but I love the band,
Right.
So I still like the music,
I think that could be a next book, what you learn and then what you learn from what they don't apply.
I know, right? It's very interesting. Actually, the next book, One Habit is becoming a series.
Okay.
We're doing One Habit for the Athlete. We're doing One Habit for a Happy Planet, which I'm really excited about because it's not just about not using straws.
Right.
It's about it's about really communicating about humanity coming together.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot more philosophers in that one. And it's it's just a little bit more ethereal, deep thinking, I feel. I think that book's gonna be very interesting.
I find that, I was just having this conversation about how you have one thought about, let's say, calling somebody a name. Like, like there are certain things I will never use in my language. They're just not in my language.
Agreed.
But I feel like that black and white line carries on to bigger black and white lines. Do you see what I'm saying? So I feel like
I can visually see that, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And
it starts here and it goes like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you have a thought process or a mentality that, it's gray over here and that's okay, I feel as you evolve.
Your gray line becomes wider and wider and you start accepting and just anything.
Yes.
And I think I think that takes away from your character.
Yes.
It's harder to live with strong ethics and to think about other people and to go out and do the thing, not worry about money first.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to do that.
Did this change that a little bit in you? And how you see people and the people you weed out? Because I believe as we evolve, everybody's in your life. It's a revolving door. People come in for a purpose and then they're not supposed to stay. Not everybody's supposed to stay for a long time.
No, you can't carry everybody on a journey with you.
Right.
Absolutely.
There are ones that will always be. Did this open up that more clearly for you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. What was interesting about it, because I went through the process of deleting 2,900 of the people that were going to be in the book.
Right.
So it made it interesting. It actually made it, I looked at my life in general and the individuals that were around me. And I kind of one day just say, okay, is this person somebody that is a benefit to my life or does nothing, or is it a detriment? And I just kind of changed some of the people I do business with, some of the people that I just associate with and like that. Because I just looked at people differently. And I decided, I said, you know what, I want to live this way.
Right.
I want to live as a happy achiever, which means I have to have every part of my life right, And for me to do that, I also have to be in circles that think the same way, Here's the thing that's interesting. So, I don't know, I just thought about this too. There's a lot of knowledge in here. And people are always saying, well, knowledge is power. And it's not. Taking action with the knowledge, that's what's power.
Yes.
Knowledge is kinetic. It's sitting there. It has some potential. But unless you do something with it, it's no value whatsoever. I had people I did business with that were great at talking about hyperbole and about what we're going to do, and just never did anything.
Yes.
I shouldn't say this. That's interesting enough. I had a co-writer I was going to bring in to do the book with me. And the reason was because I didn't know how to do a book.
Right.
I was a terrible speller. Grammatically, I'm just a nightmare.
Well, that's what people say to me. You wrote a book, you can barely speak English. I know.
It makes no sense, right? Yeah, exactly. So I brought this guy in that had published a couple books, and to follow his lead on how to do this. And I kept, here's something, so I kept looking at the process. I go, that doesn't sound good. That's not enough money. I don't think this, when can we get this book published? A couple of years. I'm like, no. So I went to my friend that is a best-selling author. He wrote a book series called Zombie Fallout. There's 13 books that came out of the series. He sold millions of copies, and he self-published it. And him and his wife there's a team. Tracy, his wife, is the one that handles all the publishing for them, and Mark writes all the books. And I just went to Mark and I said, do you think I can self-publish? He goes, yeah, why not? I'll Tracy show you how. And in literally like 3 weeks, she showed me everything I needed to do to self-publish my book. From getting distributions in every library around the world, to being W.H. Smith in London, obviously Barnes & Noble's, Walmart, Amazon, all these places. Yeah. And even helped me with my releases. I need the whole thing. And so once again, I had somebody that was just in my life that I was going to just go, oh, I'll just follow your lead, and the book would never be done.
Right.
Because he has all this knowledge. But, you know, I talked to him a week after our meeting. Go, did you write the foreword yet? He goes, no, I'll get to it. I'm like, why not? What do you have to? Yeah. So, so this process had done that for me. It made me just, I edited my life in the proper way.
Mm-hmm. It's a guideline.
It is.
If you use it, it's a roadmap to it. Okay, so you have all this, and they say you have to do, call 100 people, and you're going to get 5 people to respond, and you're going to, close so many of them. Did you find, and a lot of people going on that, I feel, don't act because of that failure to success ratio that's in your mind. Did that come up in this? Yeah. Was there, like, if you were to lay it all out, I have way more failures than I do successes.
Sure, we all do, yeah.
But how did you find their mindset was different? What makes it so they don't focus on that?
Yeah, well, first of all, talking to all these people there was 9 serious hard months of really putting the book together, where 10 hours a day I was talking to the most incredible happy achievers on the planet. Where they are, I couldn't be depressed if I wanted to be. I'm not that person anyhow, but if I was somebody that was depressed, there's no way after 10 hours of talking to people like this that are so, they're doers, right? You know what I mean? And they actually live the life they write and talk about. Wow, it's incredible. It's really incredible. They're not, none of these people are facade.
Right.
They're like, Dr. Shimon, I love this guy. He's a friend as well. He's the #1 cardiothoracic surgeon in the world. He's done like 15,000 cardiothoracic operations, heart operations. Yeah. Most heart surgeons do about 3,000 or 4,000 their whole lifetime. He's the head of cardiothoracic surgery at UCLA, came from Harvard. This is a guy that, by the way, he's hugely busy, saving people's lives every day. He almost operates every day, but he has a great relationship with his wife and his kids, and he's physically, he just lost 100 pounds. He's in really good shape now, and this is like an example of just these people that take knowledge, great knowledge, and use it and apply it, but don't just focus on this one part of their life.
Right. Do they use their, I want to use this word properly. Failures. Mm-hmm. But they don't see them as what a traditional definition of a failure is.
Yeah, every single one of them, the same thing. Every one of them that has had failures, they consider them not stop signs but green lights. Yeah. It's like the thing about Edison. He didn't fail 4,000 times. He figured 4,000 ways that you couldn't make a light bulb.
Is there a way that you could explain, with all this knowledge, with all of these people that you got the privilege to immerse yourself in heavily for those 9 months, what would you say to the world to redefine that word failure? Because I love that word, but people are like, no, you can't say failure. You're going to hurt someone's feelings. I'm like, but no, it's such a great achievement when you fail.
If you're not failing, it means you're not competing. If you have no failures, that's a failure, because it doesn't mean everything. It means you're not going out there and trying. Right. I mean, those failures are, every single one of them is, now you learn to go right, not left. Mm-hmm. That's so important. And all these people have done many things and been super successful, crashed, came back, did things, that wasn't the right thing, I'll do this instead. But in every single case, I mean, failure is, great failures bring on great knowledge and education and allow you to make better decisions, right?
Right.
I mean, if you have to have those failures.
Oh, yes.
And here's the thing, I think that, the thing about these guys too, is they were circumspect about their failures. I saw that in every case with all these people here, these guys and girls in this book. Every one of them, when they had an adversity, big or small, sat back, looked at it. They actually paid attention. God, so many people walk through the world today as zombies.
Yeah.
They wake up with an alarm clock, fall asleep at a certain time. They're 9 to 5 every day. At this time they go to eat, and they don't even shake up their day. It doesn't change. And they just almost are dead walking through the world and don't even look at themselves. Haven't seen themselves in the mirror in years, you know? Or both physically and emotionally and spiritually and all that kind of stuff. So these people here consistently, and there was a lot of consistencies between them as who they were, but they pay attention.
Do they readjust? That was one of the questions that I had, was like, are they constantly readjusting and looking at their habits as they evolve?
Yeah, they're constantly course correcting. All the time. Now, they don't do it in a way that, I think that they make decisions quickly and they change their decisions slowly, but they always look at the actions that those decisions result in and look hard at it and then logically say, okay, I need to move this way. So it's not where you're like this, but every time there's something, you go, okay, maybe this way, I keep going, and a little bit here, you know? And there's also that mindset of being able to, whatever reason, knowing that if you can absolutely know that a failure is a lesson that will give you more, you actually you don't forward them, but when you have them, you know how to deal with them.
Right.
You know? And that's another thing in society. Some people have, because of power raising kids and stuff today, where they don't compete, everybody gets a blue ribbon. I got some thoughts on this. I don't know if it's politically right or not.
I might agree with you on those thoughts, because I'm like, you are a loser and you are a winner.
Yeah.
And both of those are wonderful.
Yes. Because, I lost. Good. What can you do better next time?
Yeah.
We all won. I learned nothing. You know, that's what it is, right? Yeah. So they're these people have. The other similarities are that nobody in the book has the ability to quit. Just don't have it. It's not even a thing.
Right.
You know, quitting is such a fine finality. It's just so, to me personally too. I can't quit. You know, when I was in the book, I was into there. I didn't know where I was going. I had to figure out how to publish something. I was a terrible speller. I had to find a way to edit this stuff without costing a ton of money to do. I actually used Grammarly to edit the whole book. It was like $30 a month, you know.
Smart.
Yeah, and they're sending these things like you're the top 1% of Grammarly users. Like I wrote a whole book, like, you know.
Were there any huge habits that they were like, I should never have done this? Like that was one of the habits that I had to get rid of, and it was so hard to get rid of.
Yeah, see, I focused only on positive habits.
Right.
I didn't even go that direction with it.
Okay.
In conversations you got there, but I tell you, one person that's not in the book, I met George Young. Johnny Depp played him in the movie Blow.
Okay.
And he was actually at this motivational thing, and he had a book that was coming out, and I just started asking questions about habits. And I said to him, listen, you know, if you could instantly instill in a child one habit would be what? And he goes, I don't believe in habits. I go, you don't believe in them? He goes, I think habits are a trap. I go, good habits? He goes, good habits, bad habits. I think they're a trap. I don't believe in them. I'm like, well, that's interesting. I don't know where I'm gonna go with that, but okay. So that was the only other opinion I had about habits.
Yeah.
So I never spoke to any of them in there about bad habits because I was so focused on getting their singular good habit of all the things they did. I didn't really see any of them, you know. It's interesting. They were always positive when I talked to them. Here's what was interesting too. These guys are really busy. And it seemed like whenever I was on the phone with them and whenever we were working on the book, on their chapter and like that, it was just all full on game time.
Yeah.
You know, they were just, it's game time. And I know that they probably had 50 calls that day.
Yeah.
And that's really cool to me too. So the other thing that was a commonality, every one of the people in the book has got a huge amount of passion. They have a burning desire to succeed at the things that are important to them, whether it's operating on hearts, or it's speaking to people and getting them out of depression, or whatever the thing might be. Mm-hmm. There is so much passion and so much belief in themselves that what they have to offer can change lives. That was, actually I saw that in all the people I talked to. The reason I got to all the 3,000 is because they're all best-selling authors, and I started with there and expanded from there. But they're all like that.
So I'm going to assume everybody in this book is financially successful.
Yeah, they're on different levels of financial success.
But they are all financially successful.
Yeah.
Do you think that 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, wherever they are in their life, that obviously their habits aren't going to be as evolved and developed, because they evolve and develop every day, but do you think consistently they had that same mindset, just on a smaller scale before, and then the abundance came because of it as it grew?
Yeah, it's interesting you said. Yeah, so like Craig Titley, who's a good friend of mine, who's in the book. He's the executive producer of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., one of the Marvel TV series. He wrote Cheaper by the Dozen and the Percy Jackson movies and Scooby-Doo, and very, very successful writer. His entire life, see, when we're in this knowledge business here, this personal development world, we're always reading these kind of books. That's all we do. It's always pretty much every book on our shelf is this. But he told me something different. It made sense. He said his habit was read 1 hour of fiction every day, not nonfiction. And I kind of never did that.
Right. Why?
Because he believes that by reading or listening to your unabridged versions on audio, that you create extra synapses, extra creativity by the words that these authors use. I'm reading a book by Dean Koontz right now, which the way he just describes things is just, it creates new pictures and it makes new connections for you. So even something that's very analytical, force yourself to read an hour a day. At the end of the year, you read 350 hours, or you can take a couple days off, of fiction that makes you more creative, and it does.
Yeah.
You know, I noticed that I've learned more interesting ways to phrase things together. Dean Koontz in his books, they're horror books, but he really paints pictures that you go, oh, you can kind of see it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know? And so Craig has been doing this his whole life. And today he still does this. I think the other habits too, like Frank Shankowitz, his habit was, you'd have to get in the why of this too, but to go out your way to be respectful of everyone you meet.
Right.
And he does that with everybody he meets. And I think that's always been part of who he is. Mm-hmm. So I think in most cases, you know, obviously you get more and more money. I don't think your habits which have worked, why would you stop using them?
Right.
Also, you don't read anymore, you know, or you don't do the other things anymore because now you have more money. Especially you have more money and you stop being respectful to people. You know what I mean?
Well, those are the people that don't make the book.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because that happens. It's not the money. It was just in them to begin with.
You're really lucky, yeah.
You know, and the money just made them kind of go out. So, has this changed? I know you do Cinebuzz. That's where you do all of your interviews.
Yeah, Cinebuzz. Yeah.
Okay. Has that changed how you interview on that side of
it's interesting. I was already on this path before I got to the book. Mm-hmm. That's what kind of got me to look at this.
Yes.
Because when I was interviewing actors, I'd be sitting with Morgan Freeman or with, I was with Bryan Cranston, and it was really funny. It was an interview for Argo, and it was at Hilton Beverly Hills. I walked into the room, and it's a giant room, and the air conditioning was broken. This was in the summertime, and there's all these lights, and it must have been 106 degrees in the room. And Bryan has got his suit on, he's got his tie on, he's all dressed up, and I go, dude, he goes, I don't know what you're talking about, Steve. My house is always this warm. You know, so I sat down with him. I said, you know, Bryan, I'm going to ask you, you know, everything I see you in, I never look on the screen and think that's Bryan Cranston. You know, and you're working so much. He's done like 12 movies in the last 6 years. How do you do that? Where does that success from come from? Yeah. And so those conversations started, and I started pulling, you know, I talked to Dolly Parton and Queen Latifah about being two of the most successful women in Hollywood. I talked to The Rock about where his motivation came from.
Right.
So here I'm doing all these interviews about the movies, never talk about the movie, get to know who they are instead. And actually, there's only 20 of us in the US that are allowed to do those interviews, because the studio's spending $150 million on a movie, sometimes $200 million. And there's only a small group of us that they are comfortable to sit down one-on-one on camera and then give us, and basically they give me the interview. I get all the raw footage, so it's not like they can even edit this thing. So I decided to use that opportunity. That I'm talking to the most successful people in Hollywood. I want to learn what makes them successful.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's what most people are going to, unfortunately, fame, fortune, that's what gets the younger generation.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
creates
Yeah.
curiosity into people. So if you have them at your fingertips, why not use it for good instead of just saying, people are going to go watch the movie anyways.
Yeah.
They're going to watch it even more when they know the person behind it. Can you smell out the BS faster now?
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. Completely kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, nah, okay, whatever.
We're going to skip that because you're not telling me the truth in it.
Yeah.
All right, so to kind of sum things up, I know you said you have a couple more of these coming out.
Yeah.
When can we look for them?
We're gonna do, right now we're working on an audio version of this,
Okay.
which is really interesting because I've never done an audio book before.
Are you going to do it?
I am, of course. Yeah, that's already happening. But I actually took one of my favorite writers in here, Kristen, and she's going to be the voice, the narrator.
Okay.
And then each of the contributors in their own voice are saying, "Here's my habit. Here's my why." So we're going to start. We're going to do the whole book thing, and then she's going to go to chapter 1. This chapter 1 is David Meltzer, and this is in his own words, David's habit. He says, "My habit is boom, and here's my reason why." And then she tells the story about who David is, and we'll go to the next one.
You are creating a story. Your creativity is coming out. It's working.
It is, right?
Your habit is, and what is your biggest habit? What do you do the first thing in the morning?
Well, the first thing I do in the morning is what I do the night before, is I prepare for the next day.
Okay.
I never go to bed at night unless I know what tomorrow looks like, and even have things prepared for that. If it's a trip, if it's a meeting, everything's ready to go. And by doing that, my mornings are pretty much more automatic pilot. I get more accomplished. But my habit, the habit that I really do consistently is to confront. If I have an issue, if I have an email that I don't really want to return, or I got something that's really hard and I don't know how to do it, I just attack it. Because what happens is, you'll have an email that you just don't want to return this email because you're not really sure what you're doing with this individual. And a day goes by, then a week goes by, and this thing starts to fester.
Yeah.
And it gains more power over you. When in reality, a one paragraph response would have fixed it. That would take you 10 minutes and be done.
Right.
So I consistently just attack anything that's an obstacle. And by the way, I don't run through it. I actually look at the obstacle and say, well, what's the best way to deal with this? But I always deal with it. I think that's the most important thing. It's part of that knowledge is not power, action. I believe that people consistently, they go through struggles and they get hit by an obstacle and they just throw it in their backpack and they carry it around with them. And then there's another one, I don't want to really do it. Put it in the backpack. And suddenly got this giant backpack and it's just crippling to them. And by the way, they're getting bigger and bigger each day that goes by. So that's it. Yeah.
That's it. Okay, I know you don't like to talk about bad habits, but we all have
Sure.
bad habits, and I like to learn from people's good habits and their bad habits, so I can sniff those out and be like, oh yeah, Steve said that was bad. I'm not going to go down that path. I'm going to learn from you. Do you have one that was either hard to get rid of, or one, and it could be from years and years ago, but when you conquered it, you were like,
Yeah. It was interesting. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I was looking at this one film company that was about to take over an American film company, and I didn't like the way it was happening because it seemed because they were so powerful that they were just going to gobble these guys up. And I didn't like the ethics of it and the whole thing, and I looked at this, and my friend says, you know, does a lion, when he's chasing down an elk, like tie one of his legs behind his back? Or he's a lion. That's what they do. And so out of that, because I would just be like, you know, if something happened I didn't like in business, I would just keep it. And I'm like, that's somebody I don't like. He did something I didn't like in business. I didn't like how that deal went, you know, or this or that. Mm-hmm. I learned just to let go of that stuff. Because what happens is, and this is a really bad habit, you say, okay, I don't like that guy because that wasn't a good deal we made. I should have, you know, I lost 10 grand on this, or I did this, or whatever it might be. People have this terrible habit of just keeping those.
Yeah.
And the moment you let those things go, these people that don't even think about you anymore, that were affecting you every day, are now gone. So I removed that habit of trying to hold on to those things. And you know, because we all have those things, and I would hold on to them. Mm-hmm. The minute I let them all go, God, it was just like, I didn't think about it anymore. I didn't wake up in the morning with this bag full of people. Oh, I gotta remember that guy. Oh, I don't like him. I don't like this person.
Do you find those people don't show up as much?
They weren't there anyhow. That's what's ridiculous about it. I mean, I did a business deal 5 years ago, and keep thinking like, I lost $10 million on that business deal, and every day I hate it. I don't like that, you know. So they weren't even there.
Right, and but that energy of that substance that you created.
I created the energy.
Right.
It was me.
Right. So did that energy, when you let it, because people do that, they hold on to it, but that's not theirs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they keep getting that same kind of, you know, situation over and over again, because it's their own. It went away, right?
Yeah, and the other thing that happens too is because you don't have that negative that you're holding on to, your other deals actually work out much better. Mm-hmm. The pitfalls that you don't know that you're throwing these circles that become holes in front of you that you fall into, they're just not there. Yeah. And you just don't make bad decisions because you're making it based on this, and you're not paying attention to what's in front of you.
You know? There you go.
Yeah, everybody lives. A lot of people either live here's right now. A lot of people live in the past. A lot of people spend all the time thinking about the future. If you can just be right here, right now, and pay attention, and not let this past stuff bother you, and not have fear of the unknown bother you, and just get the most out of this right now, you can accomplish so much more. Yeah. And really easily too.
Yeah, you're not looking for your past.
Yeah, you're looking behind your back all the time. You're paying attention where you're not stumbling because of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, those were so beneficial. Good. I hope everybody learned some new things from this brilliant man who did have an idea and acted on it and created this book.
One Habit.
Or Habit One. No, it's One Habit.
And we have a great website, which is onehabit.com, the number onehabit.com. And you can, what's really cool, you can see all the authors that are in the book on the website and learn about them.
So you can read, then see their face, and learn their story.
Yeah, and realize, is this a group of people I want to learn from?
Right.
And just when you see them, their bios like that, they're pretty amazing people.
And I can imagine that for me, because I'm a visual person, that I would connect with certain ones that would really energetically be like, oh, that's my jam.
Exactly, yes. Yeah, and you'll get that. As a matter of fact, the way people are using the book, this is not a book in a normal sense where you read it sequentially. You kind of just go like this, you pick a habit. And you read the habit and go, oh, and the habit finds you. Mm-hmm. You take that one habit, you spend 90 days on the first one, and make it part of who you are. And once it's something you do everything, that habit is now part of you, you just go through the book again, and another habit finds you. And you make that part of you, and now you're able to do it in like 60 days. And then after doing this a couple times, you can probably install a habit in 30 days. But that's the way people really use the book. So that at the beginning, we tell you how to make a habit your own. But once you're ready, you just kind of open it and just flip to a page, and weirdly, a habit will come up. And it'll just be one that you probably needed.
Do you have, and if you haven't, do you have like a social media group where people can be like, this is my habit?
Yeah, we
what I picked, and then 90 days later?
Yeah. We have the One Habit group on Facebook.
Okay.
It's kind of new. We have about 800 people on it or something. We sold a lot of books though, so I would like people to start doing that and talk about how their habits have helped each other, because that would really help. Well, what's nice is when this takes on a life of its own.
Yeah.
And everybody's just reading the books, and now they start sharing.
Yes.
Because it will just get bigger and bigger.
I would love to know, like, here's my habit that called to me, because I do believe in that, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And then I go back 90 days, you write it down, share it, and then you can be like, well, this is my mindset now.
Oh yeah.
90 days from now.
Absolutely, yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start that on that. I'm gonna find,
Do it,
I don't think
yeah.
I found that Facebook group.
I'll make sure.
It's a group, right?
Yeah, it is. It's one habit.
Okay, easy. It's
I'll send it over to you so you have
yeah,
it.
and I'm gonna do that.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea because I want to hear the successes. Those are really important. That's why you do this thing. You want to leave. You want to change the world. You want to make people better and leave a legacy behind. And so that would be great if people do that.
Yeah, the legacy will continue forever.
Yeah, I love
and ever
it. I
because
love it.
Internet is.
Yeah, it's gonna be around for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing.
Great. Yes.
And I look forward to being part of that changing of my habits. The next time you see me, you'll be like, who is that?
Well, I brought you an extra book for you, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you.
So I have one.
Well, and I'm gonna have you sign it because that's how I go.
Good. That's happening.
That's it.